While Qualcomm's success has been stunning, the Jacobs legacy goes well beyond Qualcomm to the roughly 100 companies in San Diego that trace their roots, like Qualcomm, to Linkabit.
It was over many generations where companies spawn companies spawn companies. I think we counted 7 generations that are full-blooded Linkabit companies. It's interesting that when you get that kind of critical mass in a community, it attracts other companies to town. So we have many multinational companies that have come here to share in that innovative technical resource that the Linkabit family of companies has created. And then if you look at the companies around those hardcore companies, you can add another 100 that provide telecom-related services, other kinds of services. I'm president of the San Diego Telecom Council, which is San Diego's telecom industry association. We have 250 member and sponsor companies. And you wonder, where do those all come from? Well, that explains it.
If Linkabit is the father of telecom, probably CSD is the other parent, but Irwin is the parent of Linkabit. And it is because of Irwin and his leadership that this town has what it has in terms of an economic base.
Nowhere is that presence more obvious than on the La Jolla campus of UCSD, and especially in engineering, where Jacobs' early influence on the faculty became even more profound as Linkabit flourished.
We really put some demands on UCSD, which, with great results, needless to say. We needed more engineers than they could produce in a year. I mean, we were growing much more rapidly at that point. I think this caused, I think Dick Atkinson was involved then, and the vision was seen, and Irwin had a great influence on growing the engineering department to produce more engineers.
When we first came back in 1966 to the campus, it was brand new. And actually, the name of the engineering department at that time was, if I get it right, Applied Electrophysics. And so it had a little bit more of a physics flair. But it's been great to watch it develop over the years, to see how this campus has grown, how the students have continued to improve, the faculty has continued to improve, the research has continued to improve, and now clearly the facilities are improving, and the difference that it's making to this community and indeed to the country, the state, the world. It's really been an exciting period for us to just watch all of this happen and, of course, have the opportunity to participate as well.
Since endowing UCSD's first chair in 1981, Jacobs and his wife Joan have become the university's largest individual donors, committing $15 million in 1998 when the engineering school was renamed the Jacobs School of Engineering, and in 2003 with their $110 million donation to the school.
One of the areas that we've been most proud of is the ability to support a very capable group of undergraduates and another group of graduate students. We call them Jacobs Scholars and Fellows. But it's been kind of fun to see those students come in here, and I think we're now approaching we're in our 3rd year of that program and going into the 4th year. So it's one of the areas that we're most excited about. We will continue to support that, and then ultimately that will be handled through endowment. So a very special part of this. Another important part, of course, has to do not just having excellent students, but having excellent faculty. And so part of the monies will also go to help support the dean in his discretionary use of funds to help attract and support additional faculty here at UCSD. And so we think that's another very key component. And finally, we're entering another phase here at the university and establishing another professional school, School of Management. And one of the ideas of that school, and you can still hear my Boston accent, one of the ideas of that school is to focus in on technical education, and a good percentage of the students will most likely have a technical background. And so it's important to be able to have a bonding between the School of Engineering and School of Management. So part of the funding will also cover several joint faculty appointments.
This is the largest gift in UCSD's history, and it is one of the largest gifts ever made to an engineering school. in the nation. Most people like to think of UCSD as having been launched by Roger Revelle, and it reflects Roger Revelle's personality. I would say that Irwin and Joan have had at least as large an impact on the personality of this campus as Roger Revelle did, because of course that they have sustained their impact for over 30 years, 30 some odd years.
When I became president, one of my first initiatives was an expansion of the engineering programs of the University of California. And the stimulus behind that was Irwin Jacobs, and his arguments were so cogent that he convinced me, and in turn the faculty and the Board of Regents, that we should take on that expansion.
Through the support of Irwin and Joan over the years, we have been able to recruit the very best faculty and students and to move engineering at UCSD into the top tier of engineering schools worldwide. Irwin's personal leadership is also directly responsible for two jewels in UCSD's crown, namely the Center for Wireless Communications and the California Institute for Telecommunications and Information Technology.
I think I first heard about Cal IT Squared, or the intent for having these research and development institutes, back at a meeting of the President's Council, I believe, Engineering Council, up in Oakland. And it sounded like a very exciting idea. And then we heard more about it and the governor's plans, and it sounded like it could be, and indeed I'm sure it will be, a transformational event, having that institute, Cal IT Squared, here in San Diego.
If it wasn't for Irwin and for Qualcomm, we might not exist as an organization. In fact, when the governor made his initial challenge to the UC system to put $100 million into each of the capital programs of the four institutes, he did so only if they could come back with a 2-to-1 match. And at the time, that seemed rather daunting, because this was after the peak in the NASDAQ. And in fact, we've created this whole institute all the way down in the stock market. But the one person who really understood and believed was Irwin, and he not only gave us our grub stake along with the people of Qualcomm with the first $15 million gift, but he used the opportunity of sharing the podium with the President of the United States to launch this and to issue a challenge to the rest of the corporate world.
I was at a meeting in Northern California, and the President Clinton, was there talking about the digital divide, and we had decided that we would make a major contribution to help solve problems of the digital divide, and announced our gift of $15 million at that time toward Cal IT Squared.
The institute was announced in December 2000, promising an interdisciplinary approach to developing the future of the Internet. For Jacobs, it was a reminder of an earlier time.
When I went to MIT, they had there what was called the Research Laboratory of Electronics. And that was an opportunity. You didn't have to think of what your research topic was, go off, send off for a grant request, get it back, and then be able to work on it in 1 or 2 people at a time. It was a large blanket grant, and as a result, you could get lots of researchers together, not necessarily know what might be coming out of it, but a lot of great things did come out of that. It's a great formula. It's one that's been largely abandoned. And so the chance when the governor raised this possibility of allowing the different campuses to compete, to have these major centers on them, that resonated with me. And so I'm very pleased that UCSD did lead the effort to get Cal IT Squared here. And I don't think any of us have a good feeling at this point what will come out of it. But you give people opportunities, and indeed great things do happen.
In May 2002, Jacobs was on hand for the groundbreaking on Cal IT Square's 260,000 square foot headquarters building at UCSD. When completed in late 2004, the structure will boast one of the most advanced communications infrastructures anywhere, thanks in part to novel Qualcomm technologies like the high data rate infrastructure that was deployed at the engineering school long before it was rolled out commercially.
Qualcomm 3 years ago put the first of the antennas for the high bandwidth cellular internet up on top of the Jacobs School here. And so even though Verizon just rolled out that commercial service 2 weeks ago for the first time in the United States here in San Diego, for 3 years we've been living in Cal IT Squared in that world of essentially what I call a cable modem in the sky. Anywhere you are, you have as much bandwidth as you would if you had a cable modem at home.
That technology allowed researchers from Cal IT Squared to develop innovative applications such as the Cyber Shuttle, a regular campus bus service that allows riders to surf the web on their laptops through a Wi-Fi network that links them to the web through Qualcomm's high data rate technology. This high-speed web access, even with the bus traveling at 65 miles per hour, was operating long before the first commercial deployment of third-generation wireless systems in the U.S.
And it's that ability to discover the future by living in technologies that will take 3 to 5 years, in this case 3 years from our first antenna to the commercial rollout, to get to the market. That's really at the heart of what we do.
There is another passion, of course, and that is the Jacobs' not only support for, but personal love for arts and music, theater. And even back in those days, before they were substantial contributors to the extent that they are today, they were always participating in the various music series, quartets that would come in. You know, San Diego was a Navy town. It's not a disparaging Navy, but it was a small Navy town, relatively speaking, to what many of the academics who came from major cities expected in the way of arts and availability of theater and things of this nature, and it's made this fantastic progress.
The contributions of Irwin and Joan Jacobs have benefited organizations including the San Diego Opera, the San Diego Symphony, La Jolla Playhouse, Museum of Photographic Art, the Museum of Contemporary Art San Diego, and countless other cultural institutions.
We typically, in our philanthropy, look for opportunities to support causes where we can also be active. We don't like to just give money.
The dollar value of the Jacobs contributions and benevolence to San Diego is greater than that of the Scripps family, and I think it may very well turn out to be greater in real dollars than the contributions of 2 generations of Scrippses.
Despite his sustained success as an academic, entrepreneur, and technologist, to the longtime colleagues who spoke at his 70th birthday symposium, it was Irwin Jacobs' personal attributes that engendered the highest accolades.
He's upbeat in the face of challenges everywhere, no matter how difficult the journey seems to get. I've never seen him externally exhibit anything but upbeatness in the cause. And above all, he's a real leader of people. And you see that throughout the company in terms of how it's rated, in terms of its productivity. And it all traces back to Irwin and his quiet, efficient way of getting things done.
Everything I've seen him do from then until now has been different from what other people are doing, but he seems to be incredibly good at finding out what in fact are the important risks to take.
Harvey White says Irwin Jacobs taught him a very important business lesson.
You don't compromise in those things that you really believe in. You can define the core values that you have, whether they're the technical values or the business values. You don't compromise those. You can compromise the periphery as long as they don't compromise the core values. There would be no CDMA today had he been willing to compromise. There wouldn't be any. And this School of Engineering and the impact in this community and in the world at large would not survive, would not be here unless he had that kind of dedication.
The scale with which the Jacobs have contributed not only to the university but to San Diego and to arts and to charity organizations at home, that just doesn't come. Plus creation of all those jobs.
Without a doubt, San Diego would not be what it is today at all without Irwin Jacobs.
So we're celebrating the 70th. Right now, it's interesting to look back, but I think the great excitement indeed is looking forward.
For all his reputation as a telecom visionary, philanthropist, and entrepreneur, Irwin Jacobs is also known for business ethics and balancing his work and family life. He and wife Joan raised 4 sons, Hal, Paul, Gary, and Jeff, all of whom continue to live in San Diego with their wives and combined 10 grandchildren, who are known to regularly drop by their grandfather's office to say hi. All 4 sons have also worked at Qualcomm in a variety of jobs, and 2 still do. Jeff, president of global operations for the company, and Paul, a Qualcomm executive vice president and president of its wireless and internet group. While both have been groomed for leadership roles in the company, Irwin Jacobs shows no sign of slowing down or relinquishing his job as CEO anytime soon.
We have a ways to go, so there's always something else to be done. So you don't spend too much of your time thinking back, you're always thinking forward, what more can we do?